Welcome to Ending the Stupid Gender War. This show is only for intelligent, mature, non-ADHD, non-doom scrolling people only. So you've been warned. If you're not that intelligent enough, not that serious enough about love, exit stage left. Subscribe and share this video with everyone you know. It really helps to support the channel. And let us go ahead and begin, shall we? All right, what do we have for today? The theme is conflicting communication styles in a relationship. So let's see what kind of conflicts a couple is going to have. We're going to get a little bit technical here, so not your common mumbo jumbo from other channels out there about relationships. There ain't no cookie cutter shows here. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the women. For direct communication, so this is in support of directly communicating with your partner. So what does she say? You say I'm aggressive and confrontational. I say I'm honest. Okay, so right off the bat, I have to interject already. There's a way of being honest, but don't be being rude to your partner by saying, well, that's just what's on my mind. You should understand. You have to have what's called tact. I've said this several times throughout the history of this channel. Be very cautious on how you express yourself honestly to your partner. Maybe you prefer things to be communicated in a very rude way, maybe even borderline obnoxious, but maybe your partner is actually sensitive to that type of garbage. So just be careful how you come across to your partner. You got to be sensitive, okay? Maybe you're going to be telling bad jokes, you're going to be saying what's on your mind when you should really think about what you're going to say before you say it. That's part of loving your partner, are the words that you choose to say. You got to be careful. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and see how this one's going to end. You sit on things for days, weeks, sometimes months, letting resentment build like pressure in a pipe. Okay, so a bit of procrastination. This is what, has to do with communication. I understand. That's pretty valid. Now we're into the valid area. And then one random Tuesday, you explode over something small because it's finally too heavy to carry. That's not processing, that's cowardice. Well, it's procrastination. It's not cowardice. It's just laziness. It's lack of prioritization. It has nothing to do with being coward. You're not protecting the peace. You're stockpiling ammunition. Is that what he's really doing? I don't understand that part. I don't understand that. Stockpiling ammunition. I deal with things when they happen because I actually want to solve them. Usually men say that. Usually men are the problem solvers. So that's good that she wants to solve problems. That's very ladylike. That's a mature woman right there. But with all these other accusations, we have to really see if she has any validity to them. You avoid conflict. Well, nobody should be having conflict in a relationship. That's just a sign of immaturity. So skillfully that you've created a monster, a partner who never knows where she stands. You're calling yourself a monster? Who walks on eggshells around a silent volcano. All right, so does her partner have anger management issues? Because if so, that's a valid point, but two wrongs don't make a right. You could turn into a monster. But see, that's up to you to use your own sense of wisdom and intelligence and maturity, your level of maturity, to not become the very thing that you despise. And it doesn't sound like you guys are a good match. If this relationship is not salvageable, it's time to call it quits. The volcano has done exploded already. Who has to read minds? You see, that's kind of ironic because usually men have to read the women's minds because they barely say what's really on their minds. And then when they do say what's really on their minds, they come across as rude and very offensive most of the time. Not all women, but this is usually the typical scenario with communication issues. But let's go ahead and finish this off. Because you refuse to use words. Okay, well, silence is weakness, right? If you have a douchebag by your side calling him a real man when he's not, a man of few words, right? There is no such thing. That's an immature loser male by your side. If he's too afraid to speak up or to say things, he's not strong. He's not mentally and emotionally strong. And I highly advise you, since you're seeming to be the more mature one, who's already fed up with his antics, right? You're going to have to call it quits. Because either this situation improves like right now, like an ultimatum style, or you got to call it quits. You know, you got to tell him to hit the road and to never come back no more, okay? That's the way that ends, because otherwise you're looking at a whole lifetime of this garbage. You know, he doesn't speak up, he's procrastinating, he made me a monster. True story, that literally happened to my parents. So trust me, I know it best. I know the situation best, okay? Coming from the horse's mouth, okay? Let me tell you something. As the knight of the chessboard, my father was a man of few words. Absolutely pathetic. Like loser, machismo, toxic masculinity material. Created an absolute monster out of my own mother, who tore into all of us with all kinds of abusive behavior. Verbal abuse, even physical abuse. Slapping you in public. And then my father pushing me on my own bed and spitting in my face. All these things, you know, when you see, this is why I'm telling you, lady, get out now. Save yourself. If you don't save your own ass, that's the type of garbage you have to look forward to. I gotta dish it out to you like that. I hope you really take my advice. For those of you, you know, with the shoe fits in this type of garbage situation, because you're not with the real man. You're with garbage. Absolute garbage. A sorry excuse for a real man. They are males by biological, anatomical definition. Scientifically speaking, they're males, but they're not real men. You have to really be a real man to be called and respected as a real man. And the same for women. So that's where this crap stands already. Like walking on eggshells, a man of few words, procrastinating. It's just so much garbage. It really is. Absolute garbage. You call yourself reserved. I call you dishonest. They could be. And silence is not only weakness, but you can't trust a person who's silent. You never know what they're thinking. You don't know what their thoughts are, their emotions are. You can't trust garbage like that. And the silence you think keeps the peace is actually the loudest argument in this house. Precisely. So I'm going to go ahead and side with the women here for that argument, for direct communication. She's demanding the key to all relationships is not only trust, but how is trust developed? Via communication. Open your damn mouth and start speaking to each other. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You guys are just goofballs. All right, so let's look at a case where women are for indirect communication. This is going to be very interesting. You want me to just say what I mean, like it's that simple. But when I do, you get a defensive. Well, it depends what you say, right? You attack my tone, my timing, my word choice. You don't want honesty. You want surgical precision delivered on your schedule with the exact emotional temperature you deem acceptable. That's precisely what I was describing in number 1. Have tact. Be very careful with the words that you say. Yes, you have to be careful. You can't just say, well, I think you're stupid. Like, seriously? This is the guy that you say you love? Or, I think you smell. I think whatever it is. Like, you're just being rude. You're being offensive. Well, how else am I supposed to say it? That's your problem. That's your problem. Humans were born with natural, like when we were little kids, little toddlers, creativity and imagination. Use them. Tact. Be tactful with your words. Be very careful. You're trying to love your partner, right? Because you want to, hopefully, love them now and forever. So you think your partner's supposed to, withstand your garbage that's coming out of your mouth? Oh, I'm just being honest. Stop it. You know what respect is. Learn how to dish it out. Don't hide behind the lousy excuse of, I'm just being honest. I'm being truthful. Yeah, and I can call you a bunch of bad things and be honest and truthful, but that's disrespectful, isn't it? No. Obviously, that's not the problem to attack each other, right? Don't attack each other. Talk about the subject at hand. What is causing you to feel this way? To be so rudely honest? There's a difference between being honest and being loving and respectful, but still honest, right? All right, so let's go ahead and continue here. All right, so delivered on your schedule with exact emotional temperature and you deem acceptable. I hint because I'm afraid of you. That's not a good sign. That's a red flag right there. You should never be afraid of your partner. I'm indirect because directness gets me punished. I hope that's not physical abuse there. You should bail out. Hit the ejection handle if that's the case. You've created an environment where the only safe way to bring up a problem is to tiptoe around it. Okay, so that goes hand in hand with number 1 about walking on eggshells. And then you blame me for tiptoeing. You don't want communication. You want compliance. Well, this sounds like a borderline abusive case. Maybe it is an abusive case. That toxic masculinity, who knows? You want me to have concerns only when you're ready to hear them, phrased exactly how you want to hear them, with no emotion that might inconvenience you. That's not a partnership. That's an interview where I'm always failing the audition. Yeah, okay, absolutely. I'm going to toss her the bone with this one. You got it. Because there are complete a-holes out there who they want to control the way you speak. They don't allow you to speak. It's one thing where I'm arguing to have respect for your partner when you want to be honest. But it's an entirely different thing to have a partner trying to manipulate you the way you express yourself, even when you're being respectful. Understand? So beating around the bush, get to the damn point already, that's immaturity. If your partner's talking to you like that, like, oh, just shut up already. Tell me just, what do you want to tell me? I don't have time for this. Then why the hell are you with that person? Right? It really begs the question, what the hell are you guys doing together? If that's the level of disrespect that's coming out of one or both of your mouths, it's not a loving relationship. I'm sorry to tell you. Once again, hit the ejection handle. It's time to bail out. All right, so let's go ahead and shift gears to the men here. So, for immediate resolution, let's see what they have to say. You need time to process. I need resolution. So we fight. And then you shut down. You go silent. You withdraw. You think. Meanwhile, I'm left alone with the argument still hanging in the air. Getting cold. Yeah, so there's no resolution. There's no, nothing has been solved yet. And, this is very common, right? There's no conclusion here. It's really like, yeah, so women, we're going to get into it. Getting colder and heavier by the minute. Yeah, closure was the word I was looking for. You saying you need space. What I hear is abandonment. It could be. If she's running away from serious conversations because, whatever, like, running away is cowardice, as mentioned in number 1 by the women, right? This is cowardice. It's a sign of immaturity yet again. You are a grown adult. You're in a serious relationship designed to be, hopefully, a lifelong relationship, last an entire lifetime. If you can't handle that, because this is what happens. Men or women will get involved in a lifelong, hopefully a lifelong relationship. That's the goal, right? Obviously. If that's not your goal, then you're an idiot. And then they just run away at the first challenge or set of challenges that they encounter. Hello, there's a process of synchronization. You're not the same as she is, and she's not the same as you are. You guys have to find some type of middle ground and learn how to blend in together like an artist painting on a canvas. It's the art of love. You have to learn it. You have to master it. You can't just be like, nah, I don't care. I don't know. And just, throw your paintbrush down and leave your partner with the paintbrush in their hand, just completely abandoning them. That's not being mature. That's not being loving. Love is like, so many people get it freaking wrong, I swear. They think love is just supposed to be like, let's kiss, let's have sex, let's go out, let's have, companionship, and that's it. You just close the book there. Love is so much effort because you want to give the effort, okay? It's not like, well, you please me and I don't have to do really anything, or I can just do the minimum. What the hell are you talking about? Your partner has expectations and desires that, the same as you do. It's not all about you. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman. The hammer goes down on both of you guys. My point here is, do you want to be in love? Yes or no? Because the weaklings, the idiots out there will be like, minimal effort. It's all about me, not you. And then it's just, they wonder why their relationships fail. They crumble, their marriages end. Because you're the idiot and weakling who didn't give it your all. And then you'll say you gave it your all, maybe in one or two ways. But hello, love is like a complete circle of infinite angles of effort. I mean, if I say, what, you thought this was going to be easy? Well, then no thanks, because it requires work. Everything in life requires work. Genius. But the beauty of love, it makes you want to do all of that work and more, because it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to satisfy your partner. If you don't feel that, you're not in love. When you want to do everything your partner wants and desires from you, you're supposed to feel like the most special person on earth. Get it? If you don't feel like that, you can't tell your partner that you're in love with them. So stop lying to them or work on it. Put some mature, intelligent effort forth. Prove it to yourself, not just to your partner, that you really love them. Because if you don't do that, you're just borderline worthless. Not only to your partner, but to yourself. Because you don't want to do any type of work, right? You just want to, play Groundhog Day, the same day every day. Well, only if you perfected everything that is required to be perfected. Then you could play Groundhog Day, because every day is perfect. That's the way love works. If you don't like it, just go be a gigolo or a whore and just, sleep with a bunch of people and just, I don't know, call it life. It's going to be a miserable life, by the way. But all right, let's go ahead and find out how we can continue here, because I don't know. I don't know what to expect here. Leaving him alone. So still hanging in the air, getting colder and heavier by the minute. You say you need space, but I hear is abandonment. Okay, so what I feel is that my need to fix this is less important than your need to sit with it. Hours pass, then days. Okay, this is the blatant silent treatment. This is what immature people do, is dish out the silent treatment. It's a form of abuse. Look it up. It's emotional abuse. It's also a form of manipulation. If you can't handle a situation with your partner, simmer down, maybe have some time alone, but don't make it hours and days and weeks, and that's pure cowardice and immaturity right there. You better handle it the same day. Don't run away. If you guys have an argument, ask your partner, whoever's the mature one, right? You guys should both be mature. Simmer down and start speaking to each other with the utmost respect. I don't care who's at fault. Be mature, loving adults. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. You guys are just going to end up like kids until you maybe hopefully choose to grow up and handle arguments a lot more maturely and lovingly. Because that's where the proof of love comes from, people. When the storms come, how good of a captain are you to weather the ship, to not sink like the freaking Titanic if you made it that far? All right, so to fix things, so hours pass, days, weeks. That's really, I'm going to say weeks, because sometimes with sexless marriages, yada yada, it's really a nightmare on earth. The thing that could have been resolved with a 20-minute conversation, that's what I'm talking about. You got to face your fears if you are to conquer them. You got to get used to handling situations right there, on demand. Becomes weeks-long Cold War. That's what I was talking about. Because you weren't ready. I'm not asking you to rush. I'm asking you to stay in the room with me. But you leave, physically or emotionally, and I'm left fighting a ghost. Perfectly stated, and there's so many men who suffer in this category. They deeply love their partner, but their partner is not showing love in return when the going gets tough. It's just like, once again, what you put into the relationship is exactly what you get out of it. So when one partner's putting in a lot of effort and the other's kind of like abandoning you in these important, crucial situations, oh, I don't have to listen to your garbage, your BS. The other partner is left with, wow, is she going to break my heart? It does work both ways, but in this case, it's working with the woman not giving a damn about the guy. And let's say he's a good guy, because we're going to take his word for it, right? The benefit of the doubt. You're dealing with an immature woman here who doesn't want to hear it. It's not healthy. And even if the woman got her way by abandoning the situation, she thinks that she's doing the right move. But she's only doing a disservice and harm to herself and the department of maturity and strength. She's weakening herself. Because the majority of people out there with failing relationships, they do this. They're weak in one or multiple areas, especially communication. Now let's go ahead and see what the men have to say for delayed processing. You want to solve everything right now in the heat of it. Well, that's an option. That's an option. You guys can both decide to settle it later, but you guys have to settle it amicably. Postpone it amicably. When emotions are high and words are weapons, you back me into a corner and demand answers. See, this is abusive behavior. This is the opposite extreme of the spectrum. When you're trying to force something to happen, that's not respecting and loving your partner either. And demand answers while my brain is still trying to catch up to my feelings. Yeah, you're completely disregarding his feelings. You gotta speak to each other like grown, mature, loving adults, I swear. I'm not ignoring you, I'm drowning. When I say I need time, it's because I actually want to respond to you thoughtfully instead of reacting out of anger or fear. Well, you gotta control your anger, buddy. It works both ways. You know, she's in the wrong, but two wrongs don't make a right. So you're gonna show signs of weakness by getting angry, which it could be justified. But you want to avoid that. Best case scenario. Avoid being fearful or angry. But you treat my silence like an attack. It could be. It could be. I don't know who's who in here, but I'm just going to give the benefit of the doubt. The guy's the innocent one suffering from potentially narcissistic, out of control, bipolar woman here. It's possible. You chase me around the house, demand eye contact, escalate the volume. You don't want resolution. You want surrender. I don't know. It depends. It sounds like abusive behavior. You know, following you around your own home. You know, just constantly being aggressive. That's extremely aggressive behavior. I don't support that. Now, if it's an important situation that's time sensitive and she needs a freaking answer now and you're being irresponsible about it, well, now it's both of your responsibility to sit down and speak about it like mature grown adults. You want me to cave right now so you can feel heard, even if what I say in that moment isn't real, isn't me. I need to process so I can show up as myself. Well, you're supposed to already show up as yourself. What are you talking about? Not as a cornered animal. Well, that's what we're talking about abuse. But you won't give me that. So we fight about fighting and nothing ever actually gets solved. Okay, look. I kind of give the guy culpability here because I don't like that part, right? Show up as myself. You're right there. Come on. You're right there, right? Now, like I said, control your anger, control your fear. But if if she's not being abusive, saying she's being persistent because it's a time-sensitive issue, that's the only exception in this case. Because you're in the heat of the moment. Now, if she is being abusive, then yes, you're going to have to rethink who you're with. I'm sorry to tell you that. Because if this is a repeat abusive behavior, you're in for a real rough ride. I'm talking off-road rough ride. Earthquakes. So that's my advice for that situation. So all in all, we can see here, obviously, the silent treatment is for immature people who are not relationship material long-term. They're not. They have a lot of growing up to do. The ones who run away from serious conversations or who try to manipulate the conversation by force, by yelling. They can't speak to you amicably to solve things respectfully in a loving way. And when they want to be honest, they're rude and disrespectful. All of these things are signs of immaturity. It doesn't mean that the relationship can't work. It just means that we're in the red alert alarm position, that we need to switch. If you want to do a 180 on this situation, you guys better both get serious about these things because they're only going to get worse. You know, humans are creatures of habit. We're very habitual creatures. The more you train yourself to be this way in the negative and the toxic, the worse it's going to get. And not just for you, but for your partner, and your relationship's going to tank in the garbage pile. And, you know, when people listen to this, they'll say, well, that's why I'm not in a relationship, because I don't want that. You're stupid. because this is what's called an abusive or highly conflictive relationship, right? Nobody wants this. But it doesn't mean that relationships don't work. They do. There's plenty of people out there who are super happy with functioning relationships because they're truly in love with each other. So just because you haven't succeeded yet doesn't give you the right to say, well, you can say it because you're a dumbass, but it doesn't give you the right to say, well, there is no such thing as love. Nothing. No, for you, there isn't, because you're being an idiot by saying, see, this is why I don't go into relationships, because of stuff like this. Nobody wants stuff like this. And you saying that are only exposing yourself as not being ready for a real relationship. So you're a loser. You're losing out on the best part of life itself, true love. But you have to build it. It's not going to fall in your lap. What the hell are you talking about? So, people like that are immature who talk bad about love because they don't... Had they been in a loving relationship, they wouldn't say garbage like that. End of story. All right, so that does conclude today's show. That's all for now. Be sure to binge watch all of these other great shows. And if you want to be a guest speaker, should you have the guts, don't worry, I don't bite. Sign up as a free member first on my website to show me that you're serious enough and mature enough. And also, you receive all kinds of free goodies. And much love, everybody.